Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Iran fires more missiles and drones in West Asia on day 10 as intercepts are reported over the UAE, Qatar, Israel and Turkey. Israel also hits parts of the Islamic Republic and Lebanon. Crude zooms past $110 a barrel before cooling off to stay above $100 as G7 finance ministers hold an emergency meeting. Energy ministers to meet on Tuesday to discuss using strategic fuel reserves. French President Macron lands in Cyprus, says his country will send 2 frigates as part of the EU's naval mission as PEDs in the Red Sea in a bid to reopen the Strait of Hormuz when the situation improves. And External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar tells Parliament that India favours peace, dialogue and diplomacy in West Asia, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi is monitoring developments in the region. Well, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that the government is closely monitoring the emerging developments in West Asia and relevant ministries are coordinating to ensure an effective response. Making a statement in the upper house of India's parliament, the Rajya Sabha, regarding the situation in the region, Dr. Jaishankar said that given the severity of the situation, the government is working to ensure that both the security and safety of citizens is protected. The minister added that almost 67,000 of Indian nationals who stay in the Gulf region have crossed international borders to return, and every effort is being made to bring back the people from West Asia.
Today I was informed of a handout information put out by the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and this tells us of the efforts government is making. Yesterday there were 15 inbound flights operated by Indian carriers which arrived in India. On the 7th. On the 8th, there were 49 flights, and on the 9th, there are 50 flights. So I want to assure the House that every effort is being made, that those who are stuck in the region, those who are transit passengers who are there, those who need to come back urgently from this region, we are making every effort for them to do so.
The External Affairs Minister further said that India's energy requirements are on top priority for its diplomacy.
In view of the implications of this conflict for our energy security, I also seek to address that particular concern. Government remains committed to ensuring that fully, taking into account availability, costs, and risks of the energy markets. For us, the interests of the Indian consumer has and will always be the overriding priority.
The External Affairs Minister also emphasized that dialogue and diplomacy should be pursued to de-escalate the tensions in West Asia. Making a statement in the lower house of parliament, the Lok Sabha as well, on the situation in the West Asian region, Dr. Jaishankar said the Indian government had issued a statement on the 20th of last month regarding the situation, expressing deep concerns and had urged all sides to exercise restraint. He further said that this ongoing conflict is of particular concern to India as it is a neighboring region. He further said there are 1 crore Indians or 10 million Indians who live and work in the Gulf nations, and few thousand Indians are also in Iran for study or employment. He reiterated India's stand on the security of the Indian diaspora in Iran.
Once the conflict commenced, the Indian embassy has facilitated the relocation of several Indian students in Tehran to places outside Tehran. An advisory update with emergency contact helplines was issued on 3 March. Similarly, facilitation was extended to pilgrims who were there in Iran for their internal movement.
He further said that India has taken opportunity to bring back Indians through commercial as well as non-commercial flights in the conflict-affected countries.
That But our diplomats are working hard to assist stranded transit passengers in hubs like Dubai, Doha, and Abu Dhabi. They have facilitated international border crossings for Indian nationals, including from UAE to Oman and from Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain to Saudi Arabia. Wherever there has been a partial opening of airspace, we have approved and undertaken commercial flights, including non-scheduled flights, for the return of Indian passengers. Our estimate is that about 67,000 of our nationals have done so as a result.
And in a statement to the upper house of the Indian Parliament, Civil Aviation Minister Kinjarapu Ram Mohan Naidu said that the government is actively collaborating with airlines and other authorities concerned to ensure the safety of commuters.
Whatever best we can do in terms of having safe operations and making people travel from those destinations back to India, we are able to do with the help of the airlines. They have also been very considerate, even though there is an active field that is there in the airspace in West Asia. They have been thoroughly looking at these slots where they are safe to operate and where the airports are open. They are trying to operate to these destinations. Until now, around 90,000 people have been able to travel in the last 1 week itself. And we are seeing the situation might get better in the days forward, so that more people can also travel through civil aviation.
Thousands of people flocked to Tehran's Inqilab Square in the Iranian capital to pledge allegiance to the Islamic Republic's new leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei. He was appointed as the new supreme leader of Iran 9 days after his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was killed in US-Israeli strikes. The decision was announced by the 88-member Assembly of Experts, which said it acted swiftly despite what it called aggression by the United States and Israel. The 56-year-old new supreme leader is widely seen as a hardliner close to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, and is expected to continue his father's policies amid intensifying regional conflict. Large crowds also gathered in the streets of several cities, showing support for the new leader, carrying Iranian flags and portraits of his father, Ali Khamenei. Also extending his congratulations to Mojtaba Khamenei on his appointment as Iran's new leader, Russian President Vladimir Putin pledged unwavering support to Mojtaba Khamenei. In a message, Putin said, "Russia has been and will remain a reliable partner to Iran, and at a time when Iran is confronting armed aggression, Mojtaba's tenure in this high position will undoubtedly require great courage and dedication." Putin said he was confident Khamenei would continue his father's work with honor and unite the Iranian people in the face of severe trials. And this is in the context of US President Donald Trump previously warning that any successor without American approval will not last long. Israel had also previously said that any new successor to the Ayatollah would be targeted. And Trump also said on Sunday, downplaying the war-driven surge in global oil prices, calling it a temporary inconvenience amid the ongoing US-led military campaign against Iran. In a Truth Social post, the US President said that short-term oil price increases will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat is over, and described them as a very small price to pay for USA, the world, safety and peace. He even added, only fools would think differently. The comments have come as escalating US and Israeli strikes on Iran disrupt key shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz, fueling market volatility. Also, the Israeli military said it had launched new wide-scale strikes on Tehran, Isfahan and southern Iran Monday, shortly after one man was killed in Israel following missile launches from Iran. In a statement, Israeli military said the IDF has just begun a wide-scale wave of strikes against infrastructure of the Iranian terror regime across Tehran, Isfahan and southern Iran. The Indian embassy in Tehran on Monday advised Indian nationals not to approach any land borders of Iran for travel outside the country without prior coordination with the mission. The embassy said in a statement that any movement towards land border points should be undertaken only after obtaining explicit guidance from the embassy. The embassy also cautioned that it would not be able to provide assistance once individuals exit Iranian territory. Large blasts could be heard on Monday as the Israeli military kept up its airstrikes in the Hezbollah-controlled southern suburbs of Beirut. Black smoke billowed and large explosions rang as Israeli strikes hit hard in the city. The Israeli military reiterated warnings to its residents to leave and announced it would act against a Hezbollah financial institution, Al-Qard al-Hassan. Ankara on Monday confirmed a second ballistic missile was shot down by NATO defenses in Turkish airspace as Washington urged all of its citizens to leave southeast Turkey over security concerns. Some fragments from the weaponry fell in open territory in the Gaziantep area, about 200 kilometers east of Adana, causing no injuries, Turkey's defense ministry added. The U.S. Embassy in Turkey said it had closed its consulate in Adana and advised non-essential staff to leave, with the State Department urging all U.S. citizens to leave the southeast. Qatar has also condemned an Iranian attack on a residential facility in Al-Kharaj in Saudi Arabia, which killed 2 civilians and injured several others. Doha described the strike as a flagrant violation of international law and a dangerous escalation threatening regional security. Qatar rejected Iran's justifications for targeting countries in the region and urged respect for international law and principles of good neighborliness. It also expressed full solidarity with Saudi Arabia and extended condolences to the victims' families. An extraordinary ministerial meeting of the Arab League Council in Riyadh condemned recent Iranian attacks on several Arab countries amid the ongoing West Asian war involving the US, Israel and Iran. The participants of the meeting denounced the targeting of civilians, vital facilities and diplomatic missions and discussed ways to strengthen joint Arab action to enhance regional security and stability. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in Cyprus on Monday to discuss regional security as France deployed warships to the Mediterranean. Macron, who landed in Paphos, met Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulidis and Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis for talks. During the meeting, Macron said that an attack on Cyprus will mean an attack on Europe, adding that France will send 2 frigates as part of European Union's naval mission as peace in the Red Sea.
While the crisis situation in Iran, the state of war in Iran is affecting the entire region, coming here at your side with the Prime Minister of Greece is a way of telling you that when Cyprus is attacked, it is Europe that is attacked.
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. The cheetah population in India rises to 53 with the birth of the latest litter of 5 cubs at the Kuno National Park.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has said that European Union must be prepared to project its power more assertively as it can no longer rely on rules-based system against threats and must determine if its institutions and systems help or hinder its credibility. Speaking at a press conference in Brussels, von der Leyen said that while the EU would always defend and uphold the rules-based system, Europe could no longer rely on it to defend its interests.
But at the same time, these attempts to label today's world mask two tangible and structural realities which are far from important for Europe. The first is that Europe can no longer be a custodian of the old world order, for a world that has gone and will not return. We will always defend and uphold the rules-based system that we helped to build with our allies, but we can no longer rely on it as the only way to defend our interests. You will hear different views about whether the conflict in Iran is a war of choice or war of necessity, but I believe this debate partly misses the point, because Europe must focus on the reality of the situation, to see the world as it actually is today. And I want to be clear, there should be no tears shed for the Iranian regime.
And in another address to the EU Ambassadors Conference, EU Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said on Monday that the EU was preparing a new initiative to become a matchmaker between Ukraine's industrial outputs and the military needs of countries in the Middle East or West Asia. She said that the EU will also sign defense partnerships with Australia, Iceland and Ghana in the coming days.
Iran is responsible for decades of violence, and the fewer options Iran has to terrorize the region, the better. Iran's military capabilities are limited, and the regime is weaker than it ever has been before. But there is no clear trajectory how this war will end. We are providing consular assistance. Our naval operations, Aspides and Atalanta, have provided protection to the ships in the region. And in response to the need for drone interceptors, we are preparing a new initiative to become a matchmaker between Ukraine's industrial outputs and the military needs of the countries in the Middle East.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said on Monday the government is monitoring the economic fallout of the US and Israel conflict with Iran as energy prices soared due to supply disruptions. Speaking during a visit to a community centre in London, Starmer insisted the government was prepared to handle the economic fallout, with most households protected until summer by a price cap on gas and electricity. He also said that the UK is working with the US on its strikes in West Asia. Meanwhile, UK Finance Minister Rachel Reeves virtually attended the G7 meeting on the Iran crisis. Well, as I said, British Finance Minister Rachel Reeves attended the virtual G7 Finance Ministers meeting on Monday to discuss aligning their responses to the conflict on the Iran crisis. The Chancellor will give an update on the government's economic response to the situation in the Middle East or West Asia in Parliament later on Monday. Meanwhile, G7 energy ministers will also hold talks on Tuesday to discuss the ongoing situation in West Asia. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. Croatia is set to resume mandatory military service for the first time in 17 years as part of the European Union members' broader strategy to address security concerns in Europe and the Western Balkans. On Monday, 800 recruits will start 2-month basic training in military compounds across the country. To the soft sound of a piano, hundreds of Odessa residents gathered by the Black Sea to welcome the sunrise as the city's sunrise piano concert season reopened. Ukrainian pianist and composer Igor Yanchuk resumed his weekly dawn performances after a 4-month winter break. The setting created a unique harmony between nature and music. Spectators said the concerts offered a rare moment of calm. Disney Cruise Line's largest vessel, the Disney Adventure, is set to embark on its maiden voyage from Singapore on Tuesday as the company pushes further into Asia with sprawling themed zones and Marvel-inspired attractions. And now a proud moment for Project Cheetah as Jwala, a Namibian cheetah and successful 3-time mother, gave birth to 5 cubs on Monday at the Kuno National Park. With this birth, the number of Indian-born thriving cubs has risen to 33, marking the 10th successful cheetah litter on Indian soil, another important milestone in India's cheetah conservation journey. This milestone reflects the tireless efforts of veterinarians, field staff and everyone involved. With these cubs, India's cheetah population has risen to 53, a historic moment for wildlife conservation. Time to talk sports now, and 2-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu will skip the Swiss Open badminton tournament as she recovers from the 3-day ordeal in Dubai. Sindhu had to withdraw from the All England Championships after being stranded in Dubai for 3 days due to Gulf airspace restrictions following the conflict in West Asia. Sindhu is likely to return to action at the Badminton Asia Championships in April. Meanwhile, HS Pranoy and Kidambi Srikanth will spearhead the Indian challenge starting in Basel on Tuesday. In the men's singles, Srikanth, who reached 2 finals last year at the Malaysia Masters and Syed Modi International, will open against Jason Gunawan. Pranoy will take on Japan's Koki Watanabe. In the men's doubles, Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty will face Singapore's Enkit Wesley Koh and Junsu Kubo in the opening round. In the women's doubles, Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichan Pullela will face Hu Lingfang and Zhang Yu Chie of the Chinese Taipei. Now, the Indian women's football team face a must-win clash as they take on Chinese Taipei in their last Group C match of the AFC Women's Asian Cup in Sydney on Tuesday. The Blue Tigresses still have a chance to make it to the quarterfinals should they defeat Chinese Taipei by a margin of 2 goals or more, and if Japan defeat Vietnam on Tuesday in the simultaneous kickoff. India are currently bottom of the group at 4th place with 0 points from 2 matches after having lost against Vietnam and Japan. Chinese Taipei, on the other hand, have a much easier task. A draw will be enough for them to seal progression to the knockout stage. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.